Part of the Silent King's plan within the pariah nexus, which I'll touch on more in a moment, is to reverse biotransference. Let's say he manages it. What's left of the necron minds to put into a new body? Not as much as you think. We will discuss that and ask, would they be more vulnerable in their original bodies, i.e. their flesh bodies? So welcome back to another 40k video, and let's begin. The Silent King has at his disposal an ancient sect of cryptex called technomandrites. He wants them to aid him. They will employ arrays of immense, negatively polarized noctilith pylons. He seeks to create zones that humanity have christened the pariah nexus. They blanket part of the galaxy, cutting off real space from the warp. It's not perfect, but makes anything warp-powered difficult, i.e. if you're a ship, you're not going to get very far. If you're a psyker, it's going to be very difficult to call on that energy. If you can finish the task, chaos will be ended, he believes. But the goal we want to discuss is another one. The lesser races within this zone will be cut off from the warp. Their souls, that connection, snipped away. Those within the pariah nexus find themselves afflicted with a numbing despair that worsens over time, until eventually they slip into a fugue state, and then into irreversible soul death, leaving the bodies behind to be the perfect vessels for experimentation into the idea of reversing biotransference. But what would remain of their minds? Let's look at an example from the Twice Dead King Ruin. Excellent book, by the way, pick it up. Unless, croaked Dennett, who somehow was still awake, and the whole chamber turned to face him. Every so often, across the centuries, there had been moments where the tide of his confusion had receded, revealing a glimpse of the great general who had once won the battle of the Eteris Deeps. Altix could see him there now, on the very shoreline of lucidity. He hoped against all odds that this would be the time Dennett managed to haul himself free of the waves. Unless I summon forth the monoliths, said Dennett, raising a finger in emphasis, and several faceplates across the chamber dipped to the floor in shame. Alas, lamented the strategic submind of Altix, which had been just as hopeful as Altix that the ancient commander might break free of his befuddlement. The monoliths, of course, were not an option. The war engines had been a gift from the Silent King himself, a full century of them, awarded to Dennett, along with the honorary title of Master, in acknowledgement of the victory at the Deeps. But Dennett's ataxia had begun to set in, even before the Great Sleep, and he had developed an obsession with the idea that his trophies would be stolen from him. In a fit of paranoia, he had locked the monoliths in a sealed dimensional appendix, under multiple seals of encryption, to keep them safe through the ages. Naturally, when he had woken, the keys were entirely gone from his mind. The monoliths and the legion within them were doomed to sleep forever beyond his reach. Time and decay had brought a sort of mercy, however, as Dennett had forgotten even their loss, and experienced periodic swells of pride and rapture when he remembered Zarek's gift. In a way, whatever else he lost, Dennett would always have his monoliths, and nobody, not even Callus Lysicor, wanted to be the one to tell him otherwise. So that's a prime example. The biotransference plus the Great Sleep have left this Necron's mind in a state of self-delusion, paranoia, their sense of self coming and going. If that sort of mind was put back in a flesh Necron body, would he function any better there? If this was one of the great generals in the Silent King's army, and the mind of the leader of what was moved over by the Catan to the Necron body, it would carry with it these same mental impurities. This would be a poor version of the original fleshy Necron, and he would be more vulnerable in that form as well. The biotransference also left many Necrons in a state of anxiety. Let's see what that means for them. When murmurs did break the silence of centuries, they spoke of a relic, a phantom vestige of an aeon's dead brain, entombed in the deepest flux patterns of every Necron, forever searching in the dark for the body it had once reigned over. The Dice Thorak did not know it was dead. It was aware only that the warmth and nourishment and shelter it depended on had vanished, along with the constant synaptic assurance that all was well. Doomed never to find so much as a motive stimulus, it would only scream forever. Once again, Altix's executive buffer purged itself in shock, leaving only one thought: what truth was it inscribing on him? All those parts of the Necron mind that control the physical parts of, say, a human body still exist, but have little function within the Necron's new body. The impulse to eat has no stomach to go to. The heart beating faster when a pretty lady in red walks by is a function that has no purpose in these bodies. To continue with the excerpt, as the question echoed, the emptiness around it began to fill rapidly with the answer. Alarm glyphs from the dungeons of his mind, from the revenant phantom of the diasphorac. I cannot breathe. I have no skin. My heart has stopped. The glyphs poured in like the white water spray preceding a flash flood down a canyon. A torrent was coming. His core flux rumbled with it. Altix knew that when it hit, it would sweep him under, and he would never surface again. His skin was touching nothing as he sank. The baroreceptors, searching for his blood pressure, found only the searing touch of radioactive gas. His stomach had been empty for aeons, and was burning with the sheer knowledge he had starved 10,000 times over. His heart was not beating, his blood had gone still, and his organs were failing, cells dying by the billions as they choked on their own waste. He could feel the brain he did not have, desperately begging for oxygen as its tissues began to blacken. His phantom lungs were flattened stiff as leather discs inside his chest, and they would not inflate. He needed to breathe. He needed to, or he was going to die. He clawed at his own throat, desperate to clear the obstruction, but there was nothing there but solid metal. His hard fingers scrabbled against his face, but there was no mouth, no nostrils. His whole form was solid and sealed, with no way to inhale. None of his phantom parts could be anything that would save him, but neither could they collapse because they did not exist. They would be trapped here forever, in the lurid, blinding urgency at death's edge. Eventually, as he continued to fall, Altix ceased to be Necron. His perspective flipped, and the reality of the abandoned brain vestige became his own. He was no longer a construct burdened with a malfunctioning scrap of transcribed biology, but a creature of living flesh that had suddenly been punctured by cold metal in every part of itself at once. Now the remains of his mortal body were fenced away strip by strip, until there was nothing left except rough iron bones, cradling a cold green star where there should have been a heart. So in a normal body, clearly many of these parts would snap back into place. The heart would beat, the lungs would breathe. But I think a lot of those mental signals would be confused in a fleshy body. That stomach that had not filled for so many years might grumble for a decade. I think they would take time and provide issues when the Necron's mind was put back into the skin and bone body. Plus, a lot of the lowest Necrons are pretty much just basic minds and would likely not know what to do with the fleshy body if the mind found itself in one. Only, let's call the noble ones, and even they, as we discussed, are not of the best mind, have a decent sense of self. I would say only the Silent King is pretty much how he was before, as far as we know anyway. So I'd say the hope is nice, but the plan would fail, because the Necrons never can get over what happened to them. They will forever carry the scar of biotransference in their mind and in the mind's connections to the bodies they once had. So let me know what you think to this lore with a comment, and if you like this video in 40k, then why not try this one?